In this segment, we're going to look at standing poses. We're going to learn the traditional basic hatha yoga poses so that you can develop your own personal practice at home safely and with confidence, or go into any yoga studio and feel like you know enough to approach a beginner to intermediate class and join in and know what you need to be doing. So let's get started. Let's first bring our feet onto the mat and hip distance apart. We want to make sure that they're parallel and that the heels are hidden behind the toes. The next thing we want to do is draw our attention to our breath and to the mat. We want to begin to focus internally so that we can listen to our body signals, so we can learn and we can follow the breath. That's a big part of the practice, and that's why it's called a practice. We get better over time, build strength, and we build confidence, and we build flexibility. So just honor where you're at today and enjoy it. All right, so you might want to close your eyes. We're going to start with the breath, and we're going to use that Ujjayi breath. It's the same breath. We're just going to breathe in and out through the nose, very deeply, at about 4 or 5 counts. We want to lengthen it out to. We want to keep the tension the same on the inhale and the exhale. Your breath is your guide through your practice. If it gets too shallow or too breathy, just stop, come back to the breath, lengthen it back out. It'll calm everything down. It'll give you what you need to move on. So continue breathing in this manner. Now bring the attention to your feet. Feel all 4 corners of the feet, meaning the ball of the foot from side to side and the heel all the way around. It kind of creates a triangle between the ball and the heel, so feel all of that impressing into the mat. Imagine that you're growing roots down into the earth, anchoring your feet into the mat. Let's lift all 10 toes and then spread them out as best you can. We're building neurological pathways to be able to do all this. It'll get easier over time. And then start dropping from the pinkies inward or the big toes out, the toes into the mat, one at a time. You just want to lay them into the mat without gripping. So that's your strong foundation. We're going to build from the bottom up. Now imagine that through those roots you've grown, you're drawing water up through them into the midline, the very midline of the body. Hopefully you'll notice all the muscles along the side of the legs and the quadriceps, the thighs engage. And that's what we're doing in Standing Mountain. We're building a mountain, but it's active even though it's still. We want to engage all of our muscles throughout the practice. That's what builds strength and keeps us strong and stable. So feel the energy that you're building all the way up the legs. The next thing we'll do is bring our attention to our spine. So imagine that your spine are pearls. The vertebrae are pearls on a strand of elastic. We want to create more space. So imagine that someone is pulling the bottom and the top. So from the tailbone to the very crown of the head, imagine that it's being pulled in opposite directions. And so we're reaching the tailbone down and the crown of the head up, and we're creating that dynamic tension, moving in all directions and very active. In your mind's eye, see the space being created between the vertebrae. Imagine that natural S-curve in the spine, some of that S-curve is coming out. We don't want to take all of it out, but we're lengthening the spine. So feel tall and long and engaged all the way from the feet now up through the spine. Before we move on to the head and shoulders, I want us to feel these internal locks in yoga. The word for lock in Sanskrit is bandha, so you might hear that. So the first lock we're going to look at is the pelvic floor lock. So that diamond-shaped tissue and muscle on the pelvic floor, we want to engage that as if we're drawing it up again to the midline of the body. So engage that and then release it to feel the difference, and then engage it, lifting it up, and hold that there. We want to keep that going through the practice. It'll build some strength in the internal muscles, a lot of benefits for that, but it'll also keep us safe. It'll keep our low back protected. So the second lock is the mid-body lock, the Uddiyana Bandha, and that's at the belly button and just below. We want to pull that whole area in to the back of the spine and maybe scoop it up a little bit as if we're trying to scoop it under the rib cage. We want to hold that engagement there too. Again, you might want to release it and then pull it back in to feel the difference. So as we're lengthening the spine and we're engaging the locks, everything is much more tight and engaged and stable. Next, we're going to lift our shoulders towards our ears, reach them all the way back. Now, see those shoulder blades on your back, those triangular bones. We're reaching the points down as if we're sliding them into pockets that we have on our imaginary jeans. And we're rotating them in towards the spine. This is going to open up the heart and the whole thoracic area and really strengthen the whole shoulder girdle and the scapular girdle, and it's so good for posture. And again, protecting and strengthening at the same time. Let's reach through the hands. So now the arms are straightening, and we're sending energy down through the fingertips, spreading out all 5 fingers, and up through the crown of the head. So here we are, completely engaged in all of our muscles, internally and externally, and we're in standing mountain. The next thing we want to do is take a deep inhale and reach the hands out wide and up to the ceiling, through the fingertips, and drop the head back. We're going to exhale, hinging forward, swan diving, if you will, all the way down till the hands gently come to the mat, the knees are bent. We're in a forward fold, which is also an inversion. Whenever we reverse the blood flow up in the opposite direction, we're cleansing the lymphatic system, bringing oxygen to the brain. Very good for us. So keep breathing here. We want to hold this. Enough bend in the knees that you're comfortable, enough support in the hands that you can just let the upper body hang, feel the spine stretch, let the weight of the head really pull all those kinks out of the neck. We can nod our head yes, and then slowly no, taking more of that tension out of the neck. We're in forward fold. It's good to take 5 or 10 breaths here if you can. Next, we're going to step back into a long lunge. You're going to be mirroring me. So I'm going to leave my right foot forward, but you're going to leave your left one forward. And I'm going to take my right foot back. So now we should be like in a mirror into a lunge. All right, so now that we're here in our long lunge, we want to check our alignment for stability and to prevent injury, especially to the knee. So feel all 4 corners of that foot on the mat again, and make sure that the knee is directly stacked over the ankle so that the knee isn't reaching forward or back. It's much stronger and stable if we've got it right over the ankle. We've got the ball of the foot and the back extended leg on the mat, and we're reaching the back of the leg up, so we're straightening the leg. Feel the quadricep engage and the kneecap lift. So you may have to be in a shorter stance, that's fine. The hips are up a little bit higher, just whatever is available to your body. Yoga is very much about honoring where you're at. So just find that place where you can feel stable enough, because we're going to climb up into Warrior One. So the first thing we want to do is adjust the back foot for a Warrior One stance. So now we drop the heel at a slight angle. Check the heel of the front foot, make sure it's lined up with the arch of the back foot. That's your guide for alignment. Press the back foot all the way to the outer edge or the knife edge of the foot for strong, stable feet, as if you're splitting the mat apart, and then begin to draw the upper body up. You might want to climb up the first time using the hands on the thigh, that's fine. Lifting the heart and then reaching the hands up, or you might go ahead and reach them up. So bring the hips forward in Warrior One. They're still going to be a little bit open, and the shoulders are totally forward along the front edge of the mat. They're even with that. Again, we want to avoid reaching the shoulders up to the ears. Bring those scapula back and together. Reach through the hands. So again, we've got all this dynamic tension going. We're pressing out through the feet, drawing that imaginary water up through the midline of the body and reaching through the hands. This is your Warrior One. We're going to move to Warrior Two. So if your arms get tired, just bring them down here while we go over this, because you're going to build strength. It's going to take time. That's fine. We're going to open to Warrior Two. So now the hips are opening. So let's bring our hands down to our hips so we can check. So see the long edge of our mat? We want to make sure the hips are equidistant. They're pointing the same distance. So it's like we're squeezed between 2 panes of glass. So sometimes when we rotate those hips around, my knee wants to follow too. So I've got to bring it back out. I check it every time. So bring the knee back over those front 3 toes. We want to make sure we're moving the knee that way. It's much safer. So from here, we're going to make sure that our hips, rib cage, and shoulders are nice and stacked. We're not leaning forward or back. We're nice and even, strong, stable core. Now the arms are reaching directly out from the shoulders in opposite directions, shoulder height. And so our focus, our drishti for Warrior Two, is across the front 3 fingers like we're aiming a bow. Feel the strength of this pose. It's a beautiful pose, Warrior Two. We're going to reverse the warrior, also called Graceful Warrior. Palms turn towards the sky. We're going to lift the front hand towards the sky. The back hand can fall down and just rest on the thigh, that's fine. The tendency sometimes is going to take the bend out of the knee. Keep the knee reaching forward. That's that dynamic tension. Keep reaching the knee forward, reaching the hand up, lengthen the arm. Lengthen the arm. It's not a back bend. We're just reaching. So feel the stretch all along the side armpit and the rib cage. That's the reach that we feel in Graceful Warrior. Check your breath. Can you even it back out? You might be a little breathy now, that's fine, but try and lengthen it back out. All right, let's come to Warrior 2 again. We're gonna move into triangle. You might wanna heel toe the back foot up a little bit, give a little bit more stable pose, and straighten the front leg. So here we are, our hips are still nice and open in Warrior 2, but our legs are straight. We're moving into triangle. Let's slide the front hand forward as if we're on this even plane. The back hip is going to tilt up, the front hip is going to tilt back. Now we're going to take the hands, place them towards the front body, and then we're going to, like hands on a clock, we're just going to rotate to 6 and 12. So here we are in triangle. Now you might be all the way down here, resting your hand on the ankle. You might be all the way down to the mat. It doesn't matter. What we want to look for is the good alignment. So imagine that you're leaning against the back wall. So if it takes rotating forward to get your hand down, we want to come up a little higher because we want to keep the heart open and lifted and everything in alignment. So feel that reach through the top hand. Feel the heart lifting, both legs nice and straight and strong. This is triangle. Let's sweep the hands back up to Warrior 2 arms, but our legs are still straight. We're going to go ahead and bend the front knee. We'll go back to that Warrior 2. We're going to move into side angle. Let's bend the front arm, placing the forearm on the thigh. Again, we're sliding down that imaginary wall behind us, reaching up. We want to make sure that we're not sinking into our shoulder. We're reaching up. So we might test that by reaching down with the bottom hand. Side angle. Either way is fine, wherever you need to be. From here, we're going to move to pyramid, sweeping the top hand down, rotating the shoulders towards the mat, lifting the back heel. We're back in that lunge. For pyramid, we want to bring the back foot forward to about 3 feet behind the heel of the front foot. So just start bringing it up to about 3 feet. Just kind of guesstimate, that's fine. And then notice that my feet are more parallel, but they're still hip distance apart. If I'm all the way over here, I don't have a stable foundation. It's like I'm on a tightrope. So bring it back out to a wider balance beam distance, hip distance apart. If you want to rotate the back heel in a little bit for a slight angle, that's fine. In pyramid, we're working on 2 things. We're working on straightening the front leg, so start walking the hands back to straighten the front leg. The upper body might have to come up a little bit, and you might have to be supported all the way up here. And that's fine, or on the mat. The other thing we're trying to do is even the hips out. So bring the back hip forward and the front hip back. We want to feel as though we could put a platter right here in our low back and it wouldn't be spilling. So it takes time to kind of work out all that alignment because we're really feeling a nice stretch in the hamstring, especially at the connective tissue back here, and that's what we want. We also want to extend the spine. So now let's reach the forehead towards the big toe. Feel the lengthening effect in the spine. There we have those opposite directions moving. We have energy moving up the hip and along the back leg and down through the spine. And you're in pyramid. Finding our breath again. See if you can lengthen it out and find a little peace in this posture. Alrighty, let's start transferring the weight to the front foot, bending the front knee. Let's reach the back foot back into that long lunge. Keeping all 5 toes and the ball of foot firmly on the mat, letting the hips drop as much as you're able. And we're going to move into one more standing posture. This also is a bit of a balance challenge, so give yourself a break and just take your time with it. Let's first draw our hands to our thigh, kind of climbing up, and even that can feel a little wobbly. What tends to happen is if you bend the back knee, you get all unstable. So really lengthen that leg, press through the back heel, lift the back of the leg to the ceiling, and draw those hips together. And then, if it's available, go ahead and reach the arms up. And that's Exalted Warrior. Let's helicopter the hands down. We're going to bring the back foot forward, hip distance apart. Now we're in forward fold. We take a breath here. We'll reverse the swan dive, pressing through the feet all the way. Big inhale. Reach through the top. Hands come to prayer and back to the heart. And there you have your standing poses. Namaste.